Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. Season 46 of Alliance War is in the books and the rewards were handed out yesterday afternoon, so it's time once again to open some crystals and look back at how the season finished up for myself and for my Alliance SSX. So first things first, let's go ahead and claim these rewards here. For the Catalyst, we're going to go with 3 Mystic and 1 Cosmic. This should give me a 3rd Mystic Catalyst, which I can then use on either White Tiger if I get her, or Kushala when she comes to the base pool, or the next featured crystal rollover, which I think is in like a month and a half or so. All right, so that's our... did we pull the Cosmic yet? I can't remember. This should give me a 2nd Cosmic, I think. Yep, there we go. And then let's do... we'll do 1 more Mystic here. All right, that's that. And then I think we have some some regular Nexus Crystals to select. So I am long past needing to chase any 6-star crystals. I have a bunch of Mystic Abyss Nexus Crystals for Kushala, so I don't really want to devote these regular Nexus Crystals to her. So I think I'm missing like a bunch of Cosmic champs, so we'll pick 2 Cosmic, and then we'll go for like one Science, I guess. Again, these don't really matter. There are only like, I think, 5 or 6 champions in the base pool that I'm missing straight up right now. So those are fine. All right, we got the Science Nexus and the 2 Cosmic Nexus Crystals. We'll start off with the Science one. I think the only Science champion I'm missing here is OG Captain America. There are some other dupes that I would like to have too, so we'll see what happens here. We got Joe Fixit, Torch, and a first-time awakening on Hulk Ragnarok, which we will take. That's pretty good. Can take him off of my list now. All right, and then for the Cosmic ones, the only Cosmic champion that I'm missing is Icarus and Heimdall. So there are actually 2 that I'm missing. There are dupes that I want to, like Black Bolt and Ronan. I would love to have duped as well. Hey, there's Heimdall. Nice. All right, we'll take that. I've been chasing a 6-star Heimdall for a long time. That's useful in incursions. We end up pulling him twice. So, all right. Well, I guess I'm taking Heimdall twice to get him awakened, even though I can't recall. I can't recall for the life of me what his Sig ability even does. So there we go. We're looking for Heimdall once. We end up getting him twice. Can't be too upset about that. All right, let's move on to the relics. We have a 5-star and a 6-star relic to open today. Let's go ahead and do the 5-star. For the 5-star, I'm really just looking for additional Sig levels on the relics that I have ranked up as part of my prestige. I forget which ones they are, but I'll know it. I'll know if I see one. So a little janky there. 5-star Vision, that is excellent. That is one of my top relics, so that is a small prestige bump. Very, very happy with that one. Sig 80. Vision, one of my favorite relics. I have him on Viv Vision right now. Really works well with her. All right, I don't really have many 6-star relics. So, you know, whatever works here. I have my Juggernaut duped and I have my Green Goblin duped. So whatever works here, it's probably going to be new. But if I got additional Sig levels in either of those 2 ones that I just mentioned, that would be great. Or a dupe on Iron Fist, which I have at rank 2, that would also be really good. Let's see what this one has in store for us. 6-star relic is going to be more Sigs on Green Goblin. Okay, that's great. I just took him up to rank 2 this week or last week. So that'll be a nice prestige bump here. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have a 7-star crystal. We're going to end up having 3 of these total between War Rewards and the Road to the Crypt Rewards, which I have to record later today. But for now, we'll, just to make sure we kind of evenly split rewards between this video and that video, I will open one of these 7-stars now. There's a whole bunch of champs that I would love in here. Warlock is in the base pool now. There he is. I would love to pull a Warlock out of here. No would also be great. Spot would be great. A lot of really, really top options in here. Let's go ahead and do this. And we'll pop this. Just looking at the reel there. Yeah, a bunch of new, really, really good options in the pool. Mantis, I'm still chasing a Mantis. A dupe on Guardian wouldn't be bad. Sorcerer would be a pretty solid pull. So a lot of really, really strong options here. So let's go ahead and tap that. Hopefully it's somebody good. My 7-star luck lately has been not very good. And first time dupe on Guardian. That is super. Love that. Love that, love that, love that. That is a fantastic pull. So for now, let's move on to the review portion of the video. Alright, let's take a look at the season summary. My Alliance SSX finished this season ranked 4th in the world. It is the highest that I have ever placed in Alliance War, and the highest that the Alliance has placed since they made Podium, which I think was 2 or 3 seasons before I joined. And on our record, 9-3, the most wins that I've ever had in an Alliance War season. So really, really proud of what we were able to accomplish this season, especially considering how difficult and punishing this new tactic was. And I think the tactic was designed to increase deaths and make war a little bit harder, especially for tiers 1 and 2. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to share some additional thoughts on the tactic in general and what, if anything, I would change for next season. But for the time being, again, 4th in the world, very, very proud of us for managing that. 59 kills for me is pretty average, I would say, looking back at my past several seasons. What is not average is my death count, which was 6 this season, which I think I talked about in a prior video. My prior 8 seasons in SSX, I died a sum total of 4 times, and we eclipsed that in just a single season here. So that felt kind of bad looking at the numbers, from like a high level. But on the other hand, like my death count was pretty middle of the road among my alliance mates, and it's really hard to say what the standard is going to be going forward for somebody who plays at this level. So we'll find out about that in the next several seasons, I'm sure. Okay, let's look at the fight summary. Greens, of course, are solos. Yellows are fights that I died once to. I did manage not to die twice to a single fight this season, so that's a little bit of a silver lining, I suppose. My favorite fight from this season, probably the Wong on Hazard Shift in War 5 there that I took with Chioth. And for me, this was really a light bulb moment. This was when I realized just how powerful a champion Chioth was going to be, not only in general, but in war. And that fight in particular, I had Hazard Shift going, but her cleanses took care of it. Wong is easy to heavy counter, so I was ramping my damage up. And I also had the Grizzly's Grit passive ready in case he, turtled up and threw his Unstoppable. So just a really, really good showcase of just how powerful Chioth was. And as it turns out, I was going to be assigned her quite a bit for the rest of the season. Now, my least favorite fight, I think, has got to be the Mysterio mini-boss in War 6 against DSVG that I took with Photon. That fight just felt like nothing went right in that fight, and I still have no idea how I managed to pull out a solo in that fight. The fights that I died to obviously are painful too, but that feels like low-hanging fruit to pick a fight that I died to as my least favorite. But that Mysterio, I hate that Mysterio. I hate his AI. That node is very, very difficult, and my Photon isn't ascended, so I was at a big disadvantage in that fight as well. Alright, here's a breakdown of all of the attackers that I was assigned this season, and you can see Chioth leading the pack by a country mile there. I was really happy to get assigned so many Chioth fights. She is rapidly becoming one of my favorite champions in the game. So powerful, really, really good for a variety of fights on the warpath. And I'm guessing that I'm going to be assigned her quite a bit next season as well. Lady Deathstrike coming in at number 2 with 11 fights. Also really, really happy to be assigned her quite a bit this season. Lady Deathstrike was the first champ that I ever grinded for in the arena, and I ended up pulling her from a Titan Crystal, took her up to rank 2 for Necropolis, ended up not using her in Necropolis, so there was a little bit of buyer's remorse there, but being able to use her quite a bit this war season was also very satisfying. Scorpion there coming in at number 3. He's usually at or around the top of these lists. And then Black Cat, this was the first season where I got to use her. She was Tactic this season. I have her at rank 3. I hope I get to use her more frequently next season, although Chioth and Black Cat kind of fighting for time there, so we'll see how that balances out in the next season. Sandman coming in at number 4, despite him no longer being a tactic attacker, still got a few fights in with him. Photon and Shuri, I think these were first times for me bringing them to war ever. And then Chavez, Omega Sentinel, Carl there, he's always on every list. We had an Archangel fight at some point, I can't really remember what fight that was, and then Hulkling, Tony, and Toad rounding off the bottom of that list. Moving on, I once again tracked my item and loyalty usage this season. I want to point out a couple things with these numbers here. So my expenses, my loyalty expenses, definitely higher than they were in the past 2 seasons. I think last season was around 400 or so. So we almost doubled our loyalty usage here. But we also won more wars this season, and combined with the increased loyalty that we're getting from skirmishes, we did still end up with a net gain of around what we get every season, so close to about 400 to 500,000 loyalty gained in a season. The other thing I want to point out is that this is the first season that I ended up spending units on something other than energy refill. So we bought 10 L6 potions there. We ended up spending close to 1,000 units there. So when you look at the potion usage with the units on top of the loyalty usage for items, this was by far the most expensive season that I've ever had. And I was unable to kind of keep my stash topped off during the season because I was using so many of those level 4 potions, as you can see, over 20 of them. So kind of, refreshing my stash in the off season is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I do hope that there are some changes coming to the potion economy and the loyalty economy this off season. It is badly needed, and hopefully they listen to our complaints and set something up. All right, so I want to spend the next few minutes talking about the Crush 2.0 tactic in particular. There has been a lot of discussion this season about the tactic. It is very difficult, especially at the higher tiers of Alliance War. There's a lot of discussion about whether it will change, whether it should change. Is this the way Alliance War is going to be from now on? And I just kind of want to provide some thoughts from my perspective. So having said that, again, I want to reinforce that this is my perspective, my opinion. I play in Tier 1. I play at the highest level of Alliance War in the game. Your experience may be radically different than mine. That's completely fine. I don't want to be dismissive of anybody else's opinions, but also keep that in mind when you're hearing what I have to say here. So I mentioned this earlier, but just to reiterate, this was, by the stats, my worst season of war ever. As a member of SSX. I had more deaths this season than all 8 of my previous seasons combined, and honestly, it led to many days where I questioned if I could even still play at this level or not. Many times I stopped feeling like a dependable piece of my battle group, and only one of my officers knew this at the time. But during the season, I was very close to hanging it up and just saying, you guys need to replace me. I can't do this anymore. And finally, after the second time where I almost quit, I finally decided to just, rather than endlessly complaining about the tactic, a far more productive use of my time was going to be to try and channel that frustration into getting better at countering it and controlling the parts of the fight that were in my control, because there's parts of tactic fights with this tactic that feel out of your control. If the AI doesn't want to cooperate, there's really nothing you can do, and everybody has had that happen to them this season, including myself. But I really wanted to kind of push for that, this tactic is not going to beat me type mentality. And I really feel like making that decision at that point in the season absolutely helped me. And, I still ended up dying a couple more times as the season progressed, but I absolutely felt more comfortable taking tactic fights, and I gained a better understanding for, when I needed to get that taunt up, get that steadfast passive up on an unblockable special, and when I could risk not doing so because I was comfortable with these specials for the champion that I was facing. This was also the first season, and again, I talked about this earlier, where I felt like my obsessive resource management skills stopped being enough to carry me through the season. And again, my stash of like the loyalty potions, the level 4 potions, were more than half gone, which I've never been that low at the end of the season before. And that is, on top of spending close to 1,000 units on the big potions. So it would have been way worse had I not spent units on those potions. And that didn't really sit well with me. Especially because my stash is unlikely to be refilled completely before the start of the next season, which is something I really like to do. So that feels like a huge problem for me. So when it comes to the tactic, yes, I agree. It was very, very punishing, very, very difficult to deal with. And I think that it seems especially punishing because Decay, which was the tactic that we had the previous 2 seasons, the attacker tactic, was without a doubt the most overpowered attacker tactic that I think we've ever seen in Alliance War. And Decay was so powerful that it eliminated defenders and even entire lanes on the war map as legitimate threats to players. So you think about Kindred, for example, Kindred was a new defender. Kindred was designed to be a very difficult defender, but if you went into a Kindred fight with the decay tactic, there was almost no way you were going to die because you were more or less immune from damage as long as you had debuffs applied. So yeah, Crush feels very difficult, but where you might disagree with me is that I really feel like the defense tactic needs to be this way. It needs to be this difficult, especially in Tier 1 and Tier 2. This type of paradigm shift with the players who play at this level, I think, is necessary, and it was always going to be a challenging adjustment. So, previously you had a lot of wars, way too many wars, ending 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, and it felt bad when you died in a war where there were a sum total of 2 deaths or 3 deaths between both alliances. It felt really bad to die, knowing that you were pretty much the reason why all 30 people in that alliance lost that war. So, from that perspective, those types of wars are bad for the mode, I think, and I think that they were even worse for the mental health of the players. And, if you've played at this level, you've probably been in that situation before. I've been in that situation before where I have contributed directly to a loss, a war loss, because I died in a war. So sure, I died a lot this season, way more than I have in previous seasons, and it sucked for me. But again, like I said earlier, I was able to get over each individual death a lot faster than I had been able to in the past because none of them really affected the result of the war. Like, sure, they all add up, but you never really feel directly responsible for a loss like you do or like you did in previous seasons. Circling back to the tactic once again, I do think it's likely to be changed next season. I don't think it should be. Because I think that if you change the tactic, you don't actually solve anything. It's just going to put us back closer to or maybe exactly where we were in Season 45 and prior, where if you make the tactic easier, then you're going to cut down on deaths. And if deaths come down, then deaths matter more, and you're going to go right back to wars that are ending in 3-2, 2-1, kind of what I talked about earlier. I think instead what needs to happen is that the loyalty and war consumable economy needs to catch up immediately. Problem with that is that econ changes in this game are never made quickly because in my opinion, if you overreach with an econ change, walking something like that back is pretty difficult, maybe impossible to do. One of the reasons why I think it's really important for the tactic to stay as is, and why I think that future tactics should maintain a similar level of difficulty, has to deal with the war economy. So if you are the development team and you are trying to sell the idea or justify to the business people, the head honchos at Kabam, that econ changes are necessary to support alliance war, but the evidence that you are providing to back up your argument is that these alliances are dying 2 or 3 times or sometimes never per war, you have no argument there. But if you instead introduce evidence that says, okay, now we have alliances that are dying 10, 20, 30 times per war, that is a much stronger argument for supporting a necessary change to the war economy. Some things that I would like to see is maybe removing the item use limit. It's been capped at 15, I think, since war existed. Removing the escalated potion costs. So right now, I only buy 1 potion every day because I refuse to pay an additional cost for every additional potion after that. So I will only spend 20,000 loyalty on an L4 potion, and that's it. The other option there with potions is to increase the number of potions you can buy before that escalating cost comes into play. So you buy 2 or 3, and then the price goes up from 20k to whatever the next level is. I also think that the timing of those 500 unit potion bundles needs to be adjusted. Because right now, we had one come out in the middle of the war season, and it felt really bad. It felt like, and I know those things are kind of set up beforehand, so I don't think this was done intentionally, but on the outside, it certainly looked like the team had created this difficult tactic, let us kind of, simmer with it for a while, and then midway through the season, it's like, hey, we know you're low on potions, so here's this 500 unit bundle that you can buy. So I think the timing of those offers needs to be tuned for sure. To me, the loyalty economy feels like it's a bit of a mess right now. The loyalty crystal in particular is a huge pain point for me, other than for the obvious reason. And when you look at the Incursions 7-star crystal and the Loyalty 7-star crystal, they appear on the surface to be very similar, but there's a fundamental difference between the two of them that makes the Loyalty crystal significantly worse. So with the Incursions crystal, you play Incursions, you gain artifacts from playing the mode, you spend those artifacts on the 7-star or Incursions crystal, right? But with the Loyalty crystal, you can't do that, because you also need to be saving and spending your loyalty on consumables, on potions, on revives, on boosts, just to support playing the mode to begin with. So when I have to go and spend a stupid amount of loyalty on potions and boosts after a particularly rough war, it feels extra bad, because I know that in doing so, I am taking steps backward from being able to earn another one of those loyalty crystals. So the loyalty economy, the income of loyalty just has not caught up. So there needs to be either some other way to earn a loyalty crystal to make spending loyalty not feel as bad, or the loyalty income needs to be increased significantly. So I want to kind of wrap this up, because I feel like I've talked a little bit too much about this particular topic for a war review video, but it kind of comes down to this for me. When you have a tactic that is designed to increase deaths across the board, especially in high tiers 1 and 2, and I really think that that's what this tactic was designed to do. And again, going back to the purpose of doing so is to kind of make each death less significant, in the scope of the war itself. When you do a tactic like that, but you do not also introduce changes to the consumable and the loyalty economy to help support players and help them recover from that increased number of deaths, it is easy to assume from an outside perspective that the team just wants to hang the players out to dry. And I don't think that's the case. I know that the team cares about this game mode, cares about the players who care about this game mode, but something has got to give with the economy, because I really feel like if you continue to ask players to spend this kind of resources on Alliance War, those players are probably going to leave the mode. And there are always going to be new players to take their place, but that kind of approach is completely unsustainable for the game mode. So I have no idea where things are going to kind of end up for Alliance War in the coming seasons, but let's hope it improves. Last, but certainly not least, I want to give a massive thank you to all of the officers and planners in SSX for another wildly successful season. Finishing 4th in the world with this brand new, very difficult tactic is a huge accomplishment, and our success this season is due in no small part to the efforts of these people. So especially those who are in charge of planning for my battle group. So DLL, of course, is our leader. He does most of the planning for us in BG3. But I also want to give a special shout out to Na, who changed his name to Mudkip recently. He's usually in charge of handling our defense. Our defense was very, very strong this season and won us quite a few wars. So big shout out to Na. And finally, I want to give a huge shout out to Royu. He was interested in starting to learn how to plan this season and did a few plans for us in BG3. So massive thank you and shout out to Royu as well. These guys work so hard, season in and season out, putting us all in positions to succeed. And especially, again, with how difficult the tactic was this season, making sure that we were sending appropriate counters to each fight was really important. And to that end, I think we had a really strong amount of success. That's going to do it for this one, folks. I hope you enjoyed another season of Alliance War videos. If they helped you at all, please let me know in the comments below. One of my favorite things, I also think I say this every time I do one of these videos, one of my favorite things about doing these war videos is knowing that they've helped somebody in their own Alliance War. So if they did, please let me know. If you made it this far into the video, you can leave me a comment below that says, "It's Friday somewhere." And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next season.